Today we're going to talk about the legacy of leadership. The legacy of leadership. What makes a great leader? It's funny when we think of leadership and leaders, we think of people who are ahead of the pack, leading people with a bunch of followers behind them. On the contrary, great leaders often lead from behind. And great leaders often leave clues behind for their followers to find. So what makes a great leader, and why would a great leader lead from behind? We're going to discuss that today. I think one of the best ways that I've heard it put is that the legacy of a great leader is the leader that decides to put their followers in a position to do great things. To kind of set that guideline, that template, that stencil for their followers to do great things without them. That means the leader doesn't have to be there leading the pack, but the leader set the example, set the pace, set the tone, set the temperature. And that legacy of that successful leader continues to live on throughout the people that we're following or that were impacted by that example. So what is this legacy of leadership? A few things we're going to discuss today. We're going to define leadership. What does it actually mean? We're going to reference what I like to call the golden circle. It's an amazing perspective about leadership and great leadership from a man named Simon Sinek. We're going to talk about the trust battery, and what is the trust battery or communication. And then we'll end off with some powerful quotes about leadership. So let's define this word, leadership. You might be a leader, you might be following a leader, and we want to see if you line up with this definition or if your leader lines up with this definition. Let's define, what does it mean? Who is a great leader? You know, right off the bat, we think of people, whether it be in sports, as Michael Jordan, technology, late Steve Jobs, people like the President Obama, former President Obama. These are people that are said to be great leaders in their respective industries and organizations. But what is it about them that makes them great? Do I have any of those qualities, is what you're asking yourself? Sometimes we entertain the notion that great leaders are just living a great life, stress-free. They know that, the whole world's looking to them or the whole company's looking to them. So, this is the greatest position you can be in. But research shows that 70% of leaders admit to be incredibly stressed out. I'm sure you could understand that. All the decisions are on you, the leader. If the ship sails, it's you. If the ship sinks, it's you. 80% of leaders fail to impress their respective audience within the first 2 years. In other words, they didn't produce the results we thought they would. I'm guilty of that. And over 70% admit to not enjoying the position of being the leader. But as the old song says, follow the leader. I don't know if that's very attractive anymore. So what makes a great leader? Well, number one, irrespective of the stress, irrespective of the piling up of duties, irrespective of the letdown in performance, one of the reasons we think a person is a great leader is because we notice their obsession with the idea, the purpose, or the vision. Obsession with the idea, the purpose, or the vision. They're obsessed. They don't even see the failures as failures. They see the failures as challenges that they got to get through. Why? The obsession. The idea is too big, too meaningful, too important to quit. They're focused on the purpose, the why, and they have the vision. We think of current day Elon Musk. Irrespective of the reports that go out, whether it be the stock investors, the critics, the competitors, things seem like they're going down or they're not what we said they would be. Somehow Elon Musk tends to still make front page news for the future of his ideas changing the way we live. Obsession with the idea, the purpose, or the vision. There's a story about the late Steve Jobs. When he had his team at Apple working on a project to make the iPad mini the smallest MP3 player. So his team came back to him and said, look, Mr. Jobs, I think we did it. I think we got it down to the size. This is as small as it can get. He looked at it and he didn't love it. So he took it. And the story says there was a fish tank nearby. He took what they had worked so hard on and dropped it in the fish tank. And the story says that when it fell into the fish tank, bubbles started to come from that device, which meant there was more space. He said, "Do you see those bubbles? That means there's more space. Make it smaller." Ooh. We say jerk. He says obsession with perfection. The idea that he has entertained, the vision that he saw, the purpose, the reason it's got to be smaller. It's just got to be smaller. He's not going to be easily moved from that just because we think it's more work or just because we think it can't be done. Obsession with the idea, the purpose, or the vision. When I started my own company, I said we were going to take customer service to the next level, to new heights. We were going to actually change the term customer service to people service, and the level and the standard that we were going to achieve with this new people service was going to be extraterrestrial, out of this world. And the people around me, people working with me said, okay, how are we going to do that? I said we're going to sing the happy birthday song for every first time person that comes in and lets us know it's their birthday, or any time they come in and they let us know it's their birthday, we're going to sing for them. We're going to learn and train ourselves to identify first-time customers, because there was something that I would notice, that when a first-time customer would walk into our store, their eyes would immediately look up at the menu board or around in their surroundings, that it's unfamiliar, and that became kind of a clue to us that it was their first time. And if we did identify that it was their first time, we were going to say, is it your first time here at T by Daniel? And if we were right, we were going to curtsy and we were going to twirl. Well, they said, but what if there's a long lineup? Doesn't matter. We're going to curtsy and we're going to twirl. Well, what if there's 10 new people? Well, then you better get your dancing shoes on, because we're going to curtsy and we're going to twirl for every single person that lets us know it's their first time here. And it doesn't stop there. See, because obsession usually doesn't stop where we think it's going to stop. We're also going to give them a first-time treat, a chocolate, cookie, macaroon, something to let them know that one of the greatest things that's ever happened to us was you walking through that door. Now, all of this was, in most cases, just to buy a $3 or $4 cup of tea. Some would say, that's not worth it. But what would the leader say? It is so worth it. It is so necessary. if we're going to fulfill this vision, if we're going to fulfill this purpose, if we're going to fulfill this idea, we've got to be obsessed about it. So we find number 1, obsession with the idea, the purpose, or vision. So what's number 2? Number 2, if you're taking notes, you could write this down: influence and persuasion. The funny thing about this is it clears up for us the thought that leaders are only positive people. Well, why do you say that, Daniel? Well, there are bad leaders who have great influence. There are bad leaders that have big persuasion, or a lot of persuasion. They persuade people, big groups, large groups of people, to do bad things. So leadership is not just a positive word. There's good leaders and there's bad leaders. But both of them share this in common: influence and persuasion. For some reason, they're able to make us believe them. Kanye West, call him crazy, but he has influence. You say, I don't agree with what the current President Trump says, but he persuaded enough votes, to become the President of America. Influence and persuasion. They know how to talk. They know how to reason. They know how to make us believe. Even when we have our doubts, they know how to settle those doubts and follow. Influence and persuasion. So what's number 3? It's got to be something like, they're very intellectual. No, that's not it. They're generous. It's a good trait to have, but that's not it. They're versatile, extroverted, philosophical. Nope. So what is it? Number 3. There was actually a study that went out. It was a survey asking, what do you think the most impactful, influential, high achievers, and greatest leaders, what's the one trait that you think the greatest leaders in the world all share? And there were many answers like the ones I just gave. Assertive, principled, boundless, confident, educated, active, intellectual, optimistic, curious, versatile, frank. The answer shocked me. The answer was likability. Likability. You gotta be kidding me. The greatest leaders are likable. Because face it, you could think you're a great leader, you could have millions and millions and billions of dollars to prove that you've done the right things, or that you've got the right direction when it comes to business or leading people, but as life would have it, if we don't like you, we just don't like you. And you could have nothing, no education, no money, no track record, no credentials. None of the things that would make us believe you're successful or should be successful. Not educated. But if we like you, we just like you. Likability. I'm biased. I don't really pay attention to U.S. politics. I know it's hard not to, but I never really knew what President Obama stood for in the grand scheme of politics. I don't know what his political agenda really was.